Hey guys, Stealth here. Today we're following Ferrarun on this Tropical Thunder map. He said with the replay description that he screwed up in the beginning by a bit by playing a conquest game like it's destruction. Therefore he lost quite a bit of points in the beginning, but he got back pretty decently. He says the video highlights are the usability of the Buratino as a stun arty when storming a town, and how amphibious transports can really help in a map with a lot of rivers and bridges. He's definitely right. There are quite a lot of crossings. I mean, you have these bridges, but they usually end up being chokeholds. Some people are going to have ATGMs on this side, the other team is going to have them over there. And anything that tries to get across this bridge is just going to get nailed down. These other sections, I mean, it's all very shallow. It's very easily traversable by just standard amphibious transports. They can easily be crossed. So I'm interested to see in what exactly Ferrarun is going to be doing. As for the beginning setup, he's going with T62 MV1s, BRDM 3s, BTR RD robots, ATGM infantry there. More robots, a lot of infantry coming in, Scrajets, possibly, well, it's probably not Spetsnaz, these are probably Spetsnaz, BTR 90s. One thing, by the way, that you need to keep in mind when using this map, or when playing this map, is that it's best to have your fob on this side. I usually mess this up and I have my fob on the other side. The reason why you'd want to have it on this side is that usually people are going to spawn in their artillery later. And that means that your artillery is going to be on the opposite side if your fob is over there. Now you can still circumvent that, you can still take the bridge over there and come around, but it's going to take you at least a little while in order to get from one side to the other. So make sure you have your fob over on this flank, because it's going to make your artillery firing and especially your artillery resupply a lot easier. Now, one little thing I wanted to point out here for Ferrarun, make sure you have your logistics and your transports and your vehicles on the road, because while it may be easier for you to organize this way, your vehicles will have to be using their off-road speed, which is only 50 for these tanks, and a little better for these BTRs, but not by much, only 60. They're going to have to use 60 kph to get to the road, and then they can speed it up and go to 110. These vehicles you deploy it quite right, but you can still put these more on the road. I mean, the BTR 90s don't really mind. They have a very good off-road speed of 100, but still, every second counts. And I think that the Buck might be by far the slowest. It's 50, it's not too bad. Anyway, he has a BMD 2K here as a logistics command vehicle. One logistics infantry command, and I think that's a bit low for an early 1v1 conquest. I would try to capture Gregory and Cheriton first, but let's see how he performs. Interesting, he starts out with the Buratino. Considering the amount of points that I'm seeing and the amount of units, I'd say that he has anywhere between 750 or 1000 starting points. I think that would be adequate for the amount of forces that he's able to deploy. These things are probably 50 apiece, 65, that's 130, that's 130 as well, I think, 140, so that's 270, the amount of forces, BTR 90s are expensive. Yeah, let's say he has about 1000 points. Garibaldi is not going to roll over easily, he's already napalming this bridge, actually the road. The bridge would have been a bit better, as it would have forced the units to move around. Now you can take at least some fire, and yep, this is the first part. Very clever. When in doubt, go off-road. That's exactly what he's doing, because this is not very expected. Just take the off-road. Yeah, I was saying, these things still had the animation for being on the water. Just go off-road and drop off your infantry that way, because these BTR 90s are fast enough anyways. Scrajets, BTR robots are all moving directly through the fire. Now the vehicles can take it, that's not really the problem. The issue here is that your infantry is also going to get worried, because all of a sudden their crew compartments start getting a bit hot. So you need to be wary of going through these fires, because while your vehicles can take it, it will set your infantry back at least a little bit. Now I had actually expected this to be Spetsnaz, but it's Spetsnaz GRU, or Spetsnaz GRU. Not too bad. These guys can still do a lot of damage in the town. Especially if you can mix in a few standard Spetsnaz units with their RPO rice. Now, over on the left, he has a bit of a holding force, a BRDM-3, a BTR robot with an HGM, another HGM, a concourse. No spotter for the concourse here, though. Some recon infantry in any of these buildings would be very useful, because the BRDM-3, while it has good optics, is not that likely to be a good spotter for this team. It's too far forward. Spetsnaz VMF is already going to take up that role. They're going to move towards that building. And this is probably what he meant when he said in the description that he screwed up a little bit in the beginning, playing this thing like a destruction game when it should be conquest. Ah, here we go. Here's the actual Spetsnaz group. And against 36 Jaegers, the VDV are not going to last for too long. The Spetsnaz are rushing into a position. Look at that. These Jaegers are going to go down very quickly. 24, 23, 22. A lot of Fox Milan backing up the infantry, it seems. That's probably... No, actually. Yeah, they are German though. It's just unusual for me to see Fox Milans transporting Jaeger, so what might he be transporting with that? Yeah, I think it's going to be the Jaeger. I don't see anything else. Pulling his forces back slightly. The VDV unfortunately got caught in a napalm run. Where's the AA? Oh, it's all the way back here. He must have stopped that thing and told it to fire the moment that first Alpha Jet decided to napalm this sector. And he hasn't moved it since, so his AA in the middle is non-existent. He does have still a bit of Spetsnaz here. Spetsnaz Gru apparently is not capable of hitting the Fuchs. Only if I move up a little bit. He's still bleeding 1 point. How's the enemy doing? They've captured Center and Boris. Here's another BMD-2K coming in. Going for Cheriton or Gregory. Either of these will work because he now controls the middle of the map, which is already a +1. This usually is quite heavily fought over, same as this. And there we go. The enemy, Jerry Baldy, has now put in another CV, being at a +3 income already. So he has to put this CV to a halt pretty quickly in order to neutralize that +3. And I'm expecting really another CV to come in, because he just cannot keep up this bleeding +1 damage. Spetsnaz, take out these guys. Now sometimes the game seems to be lagging behind a little bit, because this group, for example, has 20 soldiers, at least as far as the 20 number behind is concerned. But if you look at the hit point bars, you're going to see one at 9 and one at 10, which is quite surprising, because I would say that one of those, see, either this should be 19 or both the bars should be full. I'm not sure exactly what that's about. Bit of autocannon fire coming in from the Fabs, not doing too much damage. See, now it's even worse. 2 bars of 9 and they still say it's 20 hit points. It's a bit unusual. Another CV coming in, BMD-2K. I gotta say, in a situation like this, I would just fly my CV around. Just pick up a CV. I think he has 1, 2... He must have a third infantry CV somewhere. And an infantry CV is always going to be faster, especially if it's airborne. It's going to hit Gregory a lot sooner than this BMD-2K will. I mean, these things are by no means slow, especially off-road, but they are still going to take a lot more time than a helicopter that's going to fly straight over the terrain. And meanwhile, it seems to be a bit of a standoff here, and I gotta say, that napalm use was very nice there. The question is, yep, he definitely hit these guys. Führungsgruppe is in the middle of a flaming structure. I'm not sure they're going to make it out alive. Probably not. And that has at least neutralized the +1. Oh, there we go. They made it out alive. Interesting. He is constantly moving it around, though, trying to get safe ground. And Jesus, almost got roadkilled by our own logistics trucks there. So much for French driving, I suppose. He is going to make it out alive, which means that red 4 is not going to be at +1 for very long. It's going to switch to blue 4 very quickly. I think I saw another aircraft coming. He needs to get this Buck 1 moving. Or at least active. I mean, it's a good practice to have him inactive. But these constant strikes of napalm jets are starting to break up his forces. Unfortunately, the napalm jets have just enough strength, which is 10, to survive the missile from the Buck. The Buck only does 9 damage. They are very accurate, but you need to have some sort of small follow-up in order to actually kill these things, because they're just going to keep dropping napalm on you. I'm not sure why he decided to napalm over there. There's no strategic value, and he knows that the enemy is already much closer. Really doesn't make sense to me. He also blocked off the bridge again, but yet again he can just cross over the river and move up that way. Quad stack of fuel resupplies. I'm thinking these might go for the Buck, maybe for the town in order to resupply the guys that have taken some damage here. Yep, they're going for the Buck first. Gotta say, these trucks are not bad for off-roaders. 70 kph for logistics trucks, not too bad, but why are they... Oh, they're going for the Buratino instead. My bad. And they can still feed the Buck. Now, these things are probably going to drain rather quickly. They may be able to completely refuel both of them and still have some left to go towards the town and get some helping hands there. Yet again, though, blue 4 is at a +1. And now this sector has been captured, so it's +1 for red. Let's see, though. They still have 12 minutes left. How is this going to end? Where's this going to go? More infantry coming in. Another Buck coming in. That was the Buck we saw being deployed over there. There's more of the Alpha jets. Now, these Bucks, you gotta know, they are not stabilized weapon platforms. That means they cannot fire on the move. If you want to fire these things, you stop them. So, in a situation like this, it would be best to use an attack move, and I think that might have been exactly what he did here. But again, he can only hurt them. And, yeah, he cannot kill them. Lots of Jaeger coming in, meeting their demise rather, rather speedily, as the Spetsnaz are not allowing any Germans in this town. Look at that. Pushing in. Spetsnaz, though, do need a bit of resupply, as their RPO is starting to run out of ammo. Needs to move up this group. Come on. Let's look at this from Blue Force perspective. He has a little bit of Jaegers over there. He knows he's engaging some Spetsnaz. Actually, let's put it to Garibaldi. He knows that the Spetsnaz are there, but he's not actually attacking from either from multiple angles, trying to get a foothold here, for example, or using mortars or any other kind of fire support in order to neutralize those Spetsnaz. Because 8 Jaeger, even 40 Jaeger against 20 Spetsnaz are no match for the Spetsnaz. If you want to give these guys as much of an advantage as possible, you're going to have to fire your mortars at these guys. Either this group, or you try to completely neutralize that group. Now, I did see some mortars, AML 60 servals. They, some people really like these. 2 HE. I personally don't like them, because they do so little damage that it's barely noticeable. They are really good at putting up smoke screens like you've never seen before, but they, I don't know. They're just not my type of mortar, let's put it that way. Another stack of mortars, sorry, of Jaegers is going down. And yep, that jet again took a hit. Now he has actually killed it. That was the combination of 2 books together. 1 Jaeger survived, and no doubt he's shaken. Lots of vehicles from Ferrarun being taken out here by HGMs at long range. I gotta say, he has a pretty large HGM presence, and his AA seems to be in a bit of a better condition than that of Ferrarun, with stacks of Flieger, Faust and Mistral infantry here. as well as some VDAAs. Really? I don't see these being used very often. And I suppose that in a town like this, they could be very useful at providing another bit of fire support. Anyway, to switch it back to Ferrarun. Ferrarun can pretty much quite patiently sit here and not do too much. As long as he has that +1 income, you, if you want to, you can relax a little bit and not go too aggressive. At the same time, being aggressive is usually the better option. Because by being aggressive, you dictate when and where the battle is fought, and you dictate when and where the enemy has to respond. So if you could, for example, capture Fedor or try to push into center with, let's say, a selection of helicopters, then he could dictate where the battle is going to go next, and he could get a +3 income, or even more, maybe. Let's see how well that sector is defended. A couple of transports, a dual stack of hussards. Okay, Jerry Baldy, if you're watching this, you don't need to have 2 stacks of recon infantry together. 1 unit of infantry, especially recon infantry, is perfect here, because this road is very easy to secure, even with 1 stack of, or 1 group of hussards. You just want them there for their spotting capability and nothing else. Instead, he invested 15, let's say 25 points too much in this sector. Now I think that the helicopter rush that I was talking about from this flank is not going to work. If you drop off your infantry here, they're going to get nailed by the Fuchs Milans. If you try to come around, you're going to get nailed by the Flieger Fausts. And vehicles are likely to get nailed by the Weasel Toe 2, as well as the Milans here. So pushing through this sector is not going to be too easy. The other flank is a whole different story. He does have some Fuchs Milans over here, and you can still quite easily fly around, neutralize the AMX 10RC, because it cannot fire at helicopters at a range anything greater than 525. Weasel 1s may put up a little bit of a fight, but with 1 point of armor, even a bunch of rocket pods are going to neutralize these things very quickly. And then it can hit the CV right there. Now these guys also don't have the best of optics, so in a situation like this, you could try to offload some Spetsnaz forces over there. You could, for example, send over Spetsnaz VMF, so the spotters. Drop those off with a helicopter, fly the helicopter back, pick up some Spetsnaz GRU and create a sort of air bridge and hope that the Fuchs Milans are not going to be able to spot that. Because if they're not going to be able to spot that, you can definitely come into the side of this sector. It is, however, pretty well defended. I gotta say, Jerry Baldy is not gonna get flanked here. Bunch of Flieger Fausts on either side of the CV. So either he's been watching my videos or he knows how to defend his flanks, because I, for one, usually try and go for these flanks. I mean, that's just how I operate. It's not nice, but it works like a miracle. So most people don't put up this defense. So Garibaldi, well done there. Now more Alpha Jets are coming in, as well as a quad stack of Fallschirmjäger. Bloody hell, that's expensive. That's 140 points right there. First missile missed the target, but the Screwjet helped him out a little bit. Second missile took care of the other napalm bomber. And now we have the Fallschirmjäger here, which are caught right in the middle of a crossfire. They got Spetsnaz all over them, as well as 2 Screwjets. Now they may not seem impressive, but trust me, if that ZSU 23-2 keeps firing at you, you're gonna notice. Especially in suppression damage. And just look how quickly the Spetsnaz are chewing through these forces. Now if you wanna, again, I'm gonna switch it to blue. Let's say you wanna push into a town like this. How would you do it? The way that I would do it is first ask, is this the position where I really need to push? Maybe you can get away with pushing somewhere else, because you know that overcoming the Spetsnaz here is going to be complicated, because the only thing that can really do that is, for example, a tank. A tank is pretty much impervious to the HE damage that these guys deliver. The Spetsnaz is backed up by the VDV-90, and they can definitely take care of a tank. So trying to get into this zone is tough, especially if the enemy is red 4 and heavily entrenched. Over towards the right, though, there is not a lot of AA. They do have one spotter, they have the BRDM-3, but you could pretty easily fly around with a bunch of helicopters and try to come into Gregory, which would neutralize the CV. And if you can see that it's a BMD-2K, you can expect that there are, I believe, 4 of these in a deck. Now you know that you neutralized 1, so there have to be 3 others. And not only that, but he has another type of CV, which is likely infantry CV on a map like this. Which is, again, only, I think, 3, maybe 4 units, so he has 8 CVs in total. And by then you can start calculating, does he have enough points or enough units to resupply Gregory with another CV? And if not, you can just patiently sit back and let the income drip. So try to spot your flanks. It was pretty much the same as yesterday's video. If you don't have a lot of reconnaissance on your flanks, you're not going to be able to spot openings and opportunities like that. Aside from that, if you absolutely wanted to get into the middle of the map, I would try and go with phase 1, a bunch of napalm bombers. Unfortunately, he pretty much already lost his alpha jets. So send in some napalm bombers, send in your Tornado ECR or your Jaguar seed aircraft, and try to neutralize those book arrays, because those things are neutralizing your aircraft. So send in those, neutralize as much of this area as possible, and then napalm this sector. Put up a smoke screen along this ridge and try to put some infantry in here, because then at least you have a bit of a foothold. And depending on the type of CVs that you have, you might be able to put a CV, if it's an infantry CV, in there, or a command tank in there. And you can at least neutralize Elena, put everybody at neutral income. That's the way that I would look at this problem. Going in from this side is too risky, because you have fire support coming in from this tree line. And not only that, we also have an HGM troop there. And of course, again, I have perfect information, but you can pretty much assume that there are going to be vehicles in there and HGMs in there. That's usually how most people play this map. And with info like that and predictions like that, going across from here to there, not too likely, not too good of an option. Now the mortars are going for the Scrajets currently. Scrajets, you can see, these things are not heavily armored. 2 on the front, 2 on the side. Normal mortars with 5 HE would do quite a bit more damage, but these things, wow. The Scrajets are not overly impressed. They are panicked, but nothing else. See, this is a good play by Garibaldi. He can just keep his RC SB over on the flank. Now they go for transports or vehicles, or infantry like that. I'm thinking that Garibaldi is just randomly firing at these buildings. Just look at the rate of fire on these guys. 22 rounds a minute. Another Alpha Jet comes in. There's one missile. Hit. And he gets taken out. And here's the Buratino, which is now threatening this position. That forces, apparently, the command group out of their position. Were they not in a structure? Is that it? I think they weren't in a structure. That, even for a little bit, caused Ferrarun to gain another point. He seems to be scouting out this area, notwithstanding the first HGM there. If Garibaldi wants to push up here, I would recommend a smokescreen over on this flank, because just as likely as Red 4 or this team over here is to have HGMs in here, you can pretty much bet your life on it that they're going to have HGMs and AA over there. And exactly this is what's going on. Now, he's again cleverly not using the bridge. He's going around the bridge and using the capable, or the float capable vehicles to just float across. And of course, oh, that was close. Offloaded it exactly at the right time. You gotta keep these guys moving in very quickly. Otherwise you're gonna be caught out in the open. How could Garibaldi have prevented this? The HGMs are going to run out very quickly. They have an accuracy of only 40%. So out of those 12 missiles that they carry, you can expect about 5 kills on average. That means they're going to be able to kill 5 vehicles and nothing else. especially with a Buratino strike like this, which I gotta say was perfectly executed by Ferrarun, especially following up. Most people seem to be able to use the Buratino, which is just move it up, tell it to fire, and it fires, but they don't follow up afterwards. And Garibaldi is now completely being overrun by Ferrarun, who is exactly doing that. He's using a follow-up force in the form of some VDV and some Spetsnaz, which are still rather vulnerable to an AA strike, or to an airborne strike, but at least they're starting to neutralize this sector. And let's see where... Yeah, here's the CV. The last bit of command infantry is being destroyed by the VDV. If Ferrarun, and there we go, there's another infantry command coming in. If he can capture this area, he's going to be having another +1 income. And he desperately needs that, because the game is going to run out in 6.5 minutes. And he still has to go through 50 points in order to even make it a draw. Garibaldi, in the meanwhile, is bringing in some more forces, quite desperately trying to get these guys in as quickly as possible. Actually, I think, yeah, Ferrarun's going to be at a +2. My bad, he's going to be at a +2. And he is not keeping his CV infantry around here, so he's moving them into the structure as quickly as possible. Because out here they are very, very vulnerable, and in here, not so much. Folks, Milans are dishing it out with BTR robots. Milans at 43% accuracy. Robots were doing 68, but unfortunately they missed their missile, or they didn't fire fast enough. In the meanwhile, Ferrarun now has his +2, so he's actually getting quite a nice amount of points for conquest. And unless Garibaldi can push this thing out, or try to neutralize the CV somehow, he is not going to have an easy time neutralizing this position. Again, let's say you're Garibaldi and you want to neutralize this position, what do? First of all, you get better mortars, because the servals, well, just no, not for me. Make sure you have some forces which can push out Spetsnaz, because you know that they're Spetsnaz and VDV. You've seen those at short range, and you've seen what they can do. The ideal way to come in would be to use infantry and capture these structures, and then start to move in from here. Then you have at least a little bit of a beachhead. Alternatively, you could send over some helicopters, because the AA over here is non-existent. The only unit that is possibly going to be opposition is the Scrajat, with a 2450 meter range against helicopters, but only 10% accuracy, so they're not that likely to be a big threat. Now he's rushing in some transports, but without seemingly a clear purpose, and you can see that the VDV are quite easily turning those things into toast. Long-range artillery fire from 2 Caesars, no less, are coming in. He's going for the Scrajat. The Scrajat right now is the least of your worries. Let's say I'm Garibaldi. I know that the enemy has just captured this terrain, this structure, and that he has a CV. Most players are going to offload their CV at the back of the sector and then run it towards destruction. That's exactly what Ferrarun has done. That doesn't make it wrong, it just makes it predictable. So a structure to fire at with relative certainty of making a kill would be this building or that one. Especially with 2 Caesars. In a situation like this, where it's getting pretty desperate, you could even risk a bomber. It's going to be pretty much a one-way trip for the bomber. But if you're pretty sure where the infantry is going to be, you're going to neutralize them. And I think at this point Garibaldi said, well, no more, and he took a minor defeat there. Ferrarun did a really good job, 1320 points, 710 losses, and I found this replay especially interesting because he showed exactly how to make use of the amphibious capability that most of the USSR forces have, at least the ground transports. And by doing that, you can avoid bridges, which are usually choke points. They might be targeted by napalm, and they are generally not the safest route to approach a town. And Ferrarun took a really, really clever route and decided to go around it, avoid the obstacle if you can, and he just floated from one side to the other. So, let me know what your thoughts are on this game. I, for one, definitely liked it. Ferrarun, well played, and Garibaldi, I hope this replay helps you, if you're watching this, of course, It helped you in how to improve your gameplay. As for that, it's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.